Welcome to the Pardes channel. Today we explain Prophet Samuel 1 chapter 7 in a clear and simple way, step by step. Now imagine a completely broken, defeated people. In this explainer, you're about to witness one of the absolute most amazing stories of a national turnaround in the entire text. We're going to look really closely at a moment when a nation completely transforms their destiny. It leads to this miraculous, literal, thunderous deliverance that alters the course of their history forever. It's an incredible story.
Okay, let's look at the agenda for this explainer. We're going to walk through this chapter strictly in order. We'll start with the context and the ark, move to the repentance at Mizpah, witness the divine deliverance, and then explore the stone of help. Finally, we'll look at Samuel, the dedicated leader, and wrap it all up with some practical lessons and a quick recap. We're keeping our focus exclusively on the plain text, the simple, direct meaning of the verses, so you get a deep, deliberate understanding of exactly what happens, who's involved, and why it really matters.
All right, Section 1, Context and the Ark. Let's set the stage right now and see exactly where we are before all the action unfolds. To really grasp the magnitude of this chapter, we have to deeply understand verses 1 and 2. So, the Ark of the Lord has just been returned by the Philistines. The men of Kiriath Jearim come and take the Ark, bringing it up to the house of Ebenezer on the hill. There, they specifically sanctify or consecrate his son Eleazar to guard the Ark of the Lord. Now, the text tells us something absolutely crucial here. Time passes. A long time. Think about it. 20 long years go by with the Ark just resting quietly in Kiriath Jearim. An entire generation basically grows up during this 2-decade period. And during this whole time, the text says all the house of Israel mourned and yearned after the Lord. They aren't just feeling a little sad here. They are in a state of deep, agonizing spiritual longing. They feel utterly distant from God, enduring 20 years of heavy silence, and they are completely, totally desperate for a change.
Well, this brings us right to verse 3. Samuel the prophet steps forward to address this huge national longing. He speaks to the whole house of Israel with a very clear conditional statement. If you are returning to the Lord with all your heart. You see, he's testing their sincerity here. It's simply not enough to just feel sad or to kind of yearn for God. Samuel gives them direct, uncompromising instructions for true repentance. He tells them they literally must physically and spiritually put away the foreign gods. They've got to direct their hearts exclusively to the Lord and serve Him only. And if they do this, and only if they do this, Samuel promises that God will deliver them right out of the hand of the Philistines.
Now, what exactly were the Israelites required to give up? Verse 4 specifically names these foreign distractions, the Baalim and the Ashtaroth. In simple English, Baalim and Ashtaroth were the popular foreign idols of the surrounding nations. They represented Canaanite storm and fertility gods. So the Israelites were basically mixing their worship of the true God with the trendy local idolatry of their neighbors. And honestly, giving up the cultural trends of the people around you, that is an incredibly difficult thing for any society to do. But in verse 4, we see this massive shift. The children of Israel actually do it. They put away their Baals and Ashtaroths, and they serve the Lord only. This absolute rejection of foreign idols is the very first monumental step in their national turnaround.
Moving on to Section 2, Repentance at Mizpah. Here, we're shifting our focus from the private actions of individual households to a massive, collective, national gathering.
In verse 5, Samuel issues a direct command. Assemble all Israel at Mizpah, and I will intercede with the Lord for you. So, in verse 6, the entire nation gathers at Mizpah. But they don't just stand around waiting for Samuel to do all the heavy lifting. They actually engage in profound, tangible signs of internal repentance. The text says they drew water and poured it out before the Lord. Now, in the ancient Near East, water is a precious, life-giving resource, right? Pouring it into the dirt is a profound physical act. It represents pouring out their very souls in complete submission and vulnerability. They also fasted on that day, literally denying their physical needs to focus entirely on their spiritual poverty. And then comes the absolute most important part. They verbally confess, saying openly, "We have sinned against the Lord." It is right here, during this massive act of national contrition at Mizpah, that Samuel officially acts as the leader and judge of the children of Israel.
But then the narrative tension completely skyrockets in verses 7 and 8. The Philistine rulers hear that Israel has gathered at Mizpah. To the Philistines, a massive, sudden gathering of Israelites looks exactly like a military uprising, so they quickly march out to attack them. When the Israelites hear the Philistines are coming, their natural human reaction is sheer terror. I mean, can you imagine the panic? You're gathered to pray and fast, you're completely unarmed, and suddenly a massive, aggressive army is marching your way? The text explicitly says they were afraid.
But contrast this with their past behavior. Instead of running away in cowardly defeat or, turning back to those idols they literally just abandoned, Israel responds this time with incredible, transformative faith. They say to Samuel in verse 8, "Do not stop crying out to the Lord our God for us, that he may rescue us from the hand of the Philistines." Their very real fear pushes them directly toward God, not away from him.
Which brings us to section 3, the divine deliverance. The enemy is closing in fast, and God answers with thunder.
Let's walk really deliberately through verses 9, 10, and 11, because the sequence here is just breathtaking. Picture this scene. Samuel takes a suckling lamb, offering it as a whole burnt offering, crying out on Israel's behalf. But while he is literally in the middle of sacrificing, the Philistines draw near to engage in battle. The Israelites are seconds away from a total slaughter. And right at that heart-stopping moment, the Lord answers. The text says God thundered with a loud, terrifying thunder against the Philistines that very day. It's so massive, so beyond human comprehension, that it throws the enemy army into sheer panic. They are completely routed before the Israelites. Only then do the men of Israel rush out of Mizpah, pursuing the fleeing Philistines and slaughtering them along the way down to a point below Beth-kar. God literally fought the core of the battle for them. The Israelites didn't even need to draw a single sword until the enemy was already fleeing in divine terror. How amazing is that?
All right, section 4, the Stone of Help. It's time to talk about memorializing this incredible victory and what happens in the aftermath.
In verse 12, Samuel takes a large, heavy stone and sets it up right between Mizpah and Shen, and he gives this physical marker a specific name, Ebenezer. In Hebrew, Eben means stone and Ezer means help, so it literally translates to stone of help. Samuel declares over this monument, "Thus far has the Lord helped us." He establishes this because, let's face it, human memory is incredibly short. He doesn't want the people to ever forget that it wasn't their brilliant strategy or their military might that saved them. It was their true repentance and God's direct, miraculous intervention. This stone stands as a lasting, physical reminder of their deliverance.
Now, let's look at verses 13 and 14 and see how this victory builds into something truly lasting. The triumph here is total. The text tells us the Philistines were completely subdued and did not invade Israelite territory again. In fact, throughout Samuel's entire lifetime, the hand of the Lord was continuously against the Philistines. But this wasn't just a defensive win. Verse 14 details a complete geographical restoration. The towns from Ekron to Gath, towns that the Philistines had previously captured and stolen from Israel, were fully restored. Israel even delivered the surrounding neighboring territory from Philistine power. Furthermore, this monumental victory brought vital regional stability. As the text carefully notes, there was now peace between Israel and the Amorites.
Moving on to section 5, Samuel, the dedicated leader. Let's look at the dedicated life and daily work of this great prophet. Verses 15 and 16 map out Samuel's incredible lifelong dedication. The text says Samuel continued as judge over Israel all the days of his life. He didn't just sit in a comfortable palace enjoying his fame and wait for people to come to him. No way. From year to year, he went on a continuous, grueling circuit. He traveled to Bethel, down to Gilgal, over to Mizpah, judging Israel in all those physical locations. And remember, he didn't have a car or a paved highway. He was doing this entire arduous circuit on foot or by animal year after year. He demonstrated immense, unwavering dedication, serving the people directly in the regions where they actually lived. This ensured that justice, leadership, and spiritual guidance were accessible to absolutely everyone.
We conclude the text of this chapter with verse 17, and honestly, it is a beautiful reflection of Samuel's character. Despite his massive national fame, all the miraculous victories, and his exhausting yearly circuit, the text says Samuel always went back to Ramah because that was his home. He faithfully judged Israel there too. But the most revealing detail is the final sentence of the chapter, "And he built an altar there to the Lord." Even in his own private home, after all his public success and recognition, Samuel kept God at the absolute center of his life. He remained a humble servant, grounded in his own community, continuously worshiping the God who had delivered them all.
Finally, section 6, practical lessons and recap. So, how do we actually apply this ancient text to our lives today?
There are some really profound, practical lessons we can directly apply to our lives, based exclusively on the events of chapter 7. First, wholehearted repentance brings deliverance. Just like Israel, you can't just feel bad about your situation. You have to actively remove the distractions and the foreign idols from your life and commit to serving God exclusively. Second, true victory comes from relying on God. When fear approaches you, and it certainly will, Your first instinct should be intense prayer and reliance on God, not panic or retreat. Third, memorialize your spiritual victories. Set up your own Ebenezer. Create physical or mental reminders in your life of exactly how God has helped you in the past. That way you can look back at them and draw strength during your hard times. Finally, steadfast, humble leadership truly matters. Like Samuel, consistency and unwavering dedication to serving others and keeping an altar of private worship in your own home, those are the true marks of a successful life.
To cement this chapter deeply in your mind, let's do a really quick recap. After 20 long years of agonizing mourning, Samuel challenges Israel to put away their idols. They gather at Mizpah to physically fast, pray, and confess their sins. When the Philistine army brutally attacks this vulnerable gathering, the Israelites don't run, they trust God. And God responds with a miraculous, terrifying thunder that completely routs the enemy. Stolen cities are restored, peace is firmly established in the region, and Samuel faithfully leads and judges Israel on an exhausting yearly circuit for the rest of his life, all while never forgetting to humbly worship God in his own home.
So, I want you to think about this question. What is your Ebenezer? What is that specific, undeniable moment in your past that you need to physically or mentally mark so you never ever forget where God stepped in to help you? Thank you for learning with us. If this helped you understand the chapter better, like, subscribe, and join us for the next chapter.